Assalamualaikum. My name is Syamer Razak. Today I'm going to present to you about low cost of airline performance after the COVID-19. Okay, so I this first. So for the introduction is at this point, if the most of the world is still in the grip of the COVID-19 pandemic, there is a great uncertainty about what the future of the airline industry will look like. The COVID-19 pandemic outbreak that occurred in the 2019 is still ongoing and posing a continuous threat to both the economy and public health at the global level. It has disrupted business operation in all industries. One of the important sectors that contribute to the global economic growth, which was affected by the COVID-19, is the aviation industry. The aviation industry has contributed to 3.6% of the world GDP by creating a total of 65.6 million jobs around the world in aviation-related industry through different types of jobs. The aviation industry is susceptible to external threats like recession, natural disaster, oil crisis, and disease outbreak. These threats severely affect global air travel by increasing flight cancellation, forcing the grounding aircraft, travel ban, and closure of international borders. Moving on to the first strategy of airline performance to adapt COVID-19. The first point is Asia trip will fuel the recovery. For your information, business travel will take longer to recover, and even then, we estimate it will only likely to recover to around 80% of pre-pandemic level by 2024. And people will take fewer corporate trips. Some carriers are highly dependent on business travelers, both those traveling in business class and those who book economy class seat right before they need to travel. While leisure passengers fill up the most of the seat on flight and help cover a portion of fixed costs, the overall financial contribution in net marginal terms are negligible, if not negative. Most of the profit is earned on a long-haul flight are generated by a small group of high-yielding passengers, often traveling for business. But this full profit-generating passenger has shrunk because of the pandemic. As you can see from the graph here, if you can see business and miscellaneous is not recovered yet. So the next point, which is increased debt, cost increase of ticket price, and government play a role. So many airlines have had to borrow huge sum of money to stay afloat and cope with high daily cash burn rate, tapping into state-provided aid, credit line, and bond issuance. The industry collectively amassed more than 180 billion worth of debt in 2020, and debt levels are still rising. Repaying this loan is made even harder by worsening credit rating and higher financing costs. The cost will need to be recouped. Therefore, we are likely to see ticket price rises. By my estimate, this could amount to a rise in ticket price about 30%, assuming a 10-year repayment window for only the additional debt taken on. Furthermore, when demand for a traveler returns, it will likely outpace supply initially. We see a glut of latent demand of people eager to travel. It will take time for airlines to restore capacity, and bottlenecks such as delay in bringing back aircraft to service and crew retraining will lead to supply-demand gap, resulting in higher short-term prices. Point is disparity of performance among airlines in the industry. Some airlines have responded to the pandemic by restructuring for greater efficiency. Others are merely muddling through. This is linked to a stated program which may reduce the incentive for much needed measures such as cost, organizational, and operational restructuring. Airline could consider stepping up IT and automation investment for now. For example, airline can respond to the quicker recovery of domestic and short-haul flight by investing in direct sales and owning the customer relationship. Relationship with IT and distribution provider could be explored. Carriers can also invest in the customer experience, such as making check-in and boarding process more seamless. And next, for the fourth point, is aircraft market may be oversupplied in the near future. In the years of COVID-19, aircraft OEM ramped up production in the anticipation of continued growth. This has led to a glut in aircraft availability. Furthermore, some carriers have returned relatively new aircraft to lessors, such as Norwing Air Shuttle, when it exited the long-haul market. Price for used aircraft leases have plummeted and are likely to remain lower. For instance, the monthly lease rate of 2016 vintage Boeing 777 aircraft was around 1.2 million in 2019. In 2020, the rate fell to less than $800,000. New aircraft are rumored to be available at an even deeper discount. Next, and for the last point, is air freight will see undersupply for some time. Over the past 10 years, low cargo rates and the unprofitability of the cargo business have led many airlines to relinquish or scale back their dedicated cargo freight fleet. However, cargo has been a lifeline for the aviation industry during COVID-19. Before the pandemic, cargo typically made up around 12% of the sector total revenue. That percentage tripled last year. During the pandemic, e-commerce sales soared while many passenger flights, which are responsible for delivering around half of total air cargo, were grounded. As a result, cargo yield increased by about 30% last year. As commercial flights gradually return, ferry supply will increase, although not to pre-COVID-19 level for at least a few years as the industry is expected to stay smaller before the pandemic for several years. So we're going to talk about the advantage of it. The advantage of the topic, which is covering employment activity within the air transport industry, including airline and airport operation, aircraft maintenance, air traffic control and regulation, and activity directly serving air passengers, such as check-in, baggage handling, on-site retail, and catering for sales. Not all these activities are necessarily take place at an airport, with some taking place at the head office. Direct impact also include the activity of the aerospace manufacturers selling aircraft and components to airline and related business. Of the 5 million direct jobs generated by the air transport industry worldwide, 4.3 million people are employed by the airline and airports globally, contributing around US 275 billion of GDP to the global economy. This is a larger world industry as the pharmaceutical sector. Conclusion from the topic that we had is the impact of COVID-19 pandemic is far from over. There is some relief to be found in various parts of the world now that vaccination has begun, but the road to recovery for air traffic will take us several years. The shape of the post-COVID-19 airline sector is becoming clearer and hold lesson for airline today. Multiple longer-running trends have been accelerated, such as digitization and the phasing out of less efficient, burdened by debt. Many carriers have depleted their cash reserve, but the forecast is not without bright spot. Travel will become greener and more efficient, and people are itching to travel again for holidays. Taking step now will help airline thrive in the disinformed sector. I think that will be all for me. Thank you for your time.